Hello, my name is Lilian Okibe. Welcome to my channel. So a few weeks ago, I received a message from one of you guys complaining that her hair is not locking at the roots. Like, she basically has about 6 inches of hair at her roots that is basically not locked yet. So in today's video, we're going to be addressing this. I'll be telling you guys like different things that may be causing your hair to not lock, or like causing your new growth to not lock, and hopefully help you get to the bottom of this issue. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then please keep on watching. So before we go ahead and talk about like different things that can slow down your locking process, let me say that it is completely normal to have some loose hair at your roots. Like, it's completely normal for you to have like a few inches of hair at your roots that is not locked yet, because your hair grows as loose hair, right? After like a few months or so, that's when it eventually starts to lock up, because like your hair doesn't grow locks from your scalp. So if you're not someone that maintains your locks with the interlocking method, then you should expect to have like a little, like some new growth at your roots that is basically loose hair. However, you should not be having like as much as 6 inches or more of hair that is not locked at your roots. If you have that much unlocked hair, then that's a sign that you're probably doing something or have done something that is slowing down the locking process for your hair. Because for most people grow an average of about 6 inches of hair per year, right? So, and most people in about a year, like your hair should have already started the whole locking process. Like most people, like if you have anything that is not straight hair, at about 1 year, at about 12 months, your hair should have already started the whole locking process. So it is not normal for you to have up to 6 inches of hair that's not locked at your roots. So if this is you, then you're going to find this video very helpful. Let's go ahead and talk about things that you may be doing that is making your locks not lock as quickly at your roots. Now, the first thing, and I feel like this is I see this every time on Instagram, right? And this is something that really, it's like if you actually understand how locks form, then you should know that doing this, if you actually think about it, you realize that doing this doesn't actually make sense. And that is combing your locks at the root whenever you retwist or whenever you maintain. I see so many locticians do this. I see so many people who are like lock gurus on YouTube do this, and it's like locks are basically tangles. Like, they are basically tangled hair, right? So it actually doesn't make sense for you to every month or like every 2 weeks or however frequently you retwist your hair to take a comb and comb out, you know, the tangles that have formed within the past two weeks or more, just because you want to retwist. If you are doing this is one of the major reasons why you have so much hair at your roots that is not locked yet, because you are fighting against your hair. You're fighting against the locking process, and that is obviously like drastically slowing down the locking process. You should not be combing your locks. Like, you should not be, and I feel like there are levels to this, right? There are certainly levels to this. You have some people who take the comb and just lightly, just the roots, like even though they may have like some hair even down the length of their locks that have not really locked yet, they only just comb like the roots. For people like that, the damage or like this issue will not be so much because they're not combing down the length of their locks. Then you have some people, and I see this a lot with locticians, they take their comb and basically comb through every part of the hair that can be combed at the roots. They basically comb it through, right? Then go ahead and use the comb to, you know, twist it back up. Like, this doesn't make sense. It is not your retwisting that is locking the hair. Retwisting does not lock hair. Retwisting does not lock hair, and I feel like we need to really get this into our heads. Retwisting does not lock hair. The purpose of retwisting your hair is just to keep your hair looking a certain way until when your hair eventually locks on its own. It does not make sense for you to use a comb to untangle the tangle that your head needs to lock, right? For you to use a comb to untangle those tangles just because you want to retwist, and then you expect that your hair is going to lock. Your hair is not easy. You're basically just slowing down your locking process. I see this so often, and it always breaks my heart. Stop combing your locks. Stop combing your locks. And I know that so many people do this because they're trying to achieve a certain neat look, but you really don't need a comb. Like, seriously, you really do not need to comb your hair for it to be neat. Seriously, you don't need to comb your hair for it to be neat. And so if you always visit a loctician who does this, I think you need to change your loctician. Like seriously, I think you need to change your loctician, because obviously he or she doesn't really understand how locks form. Apart from the fact that combing your locks whenever you retwist slows down the locking process. When you comb your hair before you retwist, what you're doing is, all through the period that you left your hair without maintaining, without retwisting, your hair was shedding, right? Your hair was shedding, and shedding basically means your hair was like uprooting naturally, right? And so when your hair sheds, it falls and like coils and kind of like tangles and interconnects the strands of hair that are like still connected at your roots, right? So those shed hairs are like what is responsible for your hair locking, basically. So when you go ahead and every time you retwist, you take a comb and comb it, what you're doing is you are pushing all that shed hair down to a particular level, right? And so what happens is, because you have normally, if you allow your hair to shed and fall on its own, it's going to fall freely, and it's going to fall in a way that it is evenly distributed. And so you're going to notice that your locks are going to be forming in a certain thickness that it naturally wants to form. I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. Like, because you're allowing you're allowing the shedding to fall how it wants to fall, like the shed hairs to fall how they want to fall, your locks are going to be uniform, because the process remains the same day after day after day. But when you go ahead and use a comb to like comb down all that shed hair, you have pushed all that shed hair to a particular level. So now you have all that hair compressed to one small section, and then you have, you know, the remaining length of the hair that is like above that section is kind of like barren, and like there's no shed hair until eventually when more hair sheds. I don't know if that makes sense. And so when your hair locks in that way, you're going to see that section where you have combed that hair, if you're extra, I feel like this is more obvious to people who stretch their retwist a little. This is going to be more obvious. So you're going to see that you're going to have a section of thickness, then you're going to have another section that is not so thick, another section of thickness, another section that is not so thick. Now another thing that you're doing that may be making your locks not like your hair not lock as fast at your roots is if you're always holding your locks, like your roots, in place with very strong gels. This is something so many people who retwist their locks and who like their locks to look a certain way do. So, and especially if you are combining this with combs, right? So there are several people and several locticians. What they do is before they retwist their hair, they take a comb and comb out all the tangles and comb down all the shed hairs, and then put like a thick layer of gel on that like new growth at the roots, and then use the comb to wind it down. Like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, like this, you're being counterproductive, because what you have just done is you have combed all that shed hair down, right? You have untangled all the tangling that has formed over the past few weeks, right? And now you have gone ahead to put hair gel to hold that section in place in such a way that it is elongated. Because the thing about gels, especially those very strong gels, is because you have combed the hair, you have elongated the hair strands, right? So there's no coiling going on, and coiling encourages tangling and like blocking, basically. You know, coiling, shrinkage, and all those things encourage shrinkage and the locking process. So now you have gone ahead to elongate the hair with the hair at the roots with a comb, and then you have gone ahead to slap on a very strong hold gel to hold those strands stretched for as long as possible. And some people go ahead to put their hair in like a lock style and wear that lock style for a few weeks before they go ahead and wash. And so within those few weeks, those hair strands at your roots remain straight or somewhat straight and firm because of the gel that you have put in there. And so there's no coiling going on, there's no tangling going on, there's no shrinkage going on, there's no locking going on. So that's basically slowing down the locking process. And that's why you see several people who have so much new growth that is not locked. Like, this is a very stressful video to make, because thinking about it just stresses me out. Thinking about it just stresses me out. I totally understand why how like people who are new on their lock journey may be doing this because they see that that's what so many people are doing and think that that's okay. But seeing this being done by locticians, I feel like this is just like very, very disappointing, because I feel like as a loctician, it is your job to one, educate your clients. Another thing is your job to do your research, to actually understand what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing, and understand how locks form. Anyone who actually understands how locks form, you see that it doesn't make sense for you to comb and put a thick gel on hair that actually wants to lock. Because it is not the gel that locks. I know there are people, there are brands who market locking gel, you know, and they are basically like strong thick gels that puts the locks, that puts the hair strands together, right, for a certain period of time, and they call it locking gel. The fact that your strands are held compact for a long period of time does not mean that your hair is actually locking. It doesn't mean that your hair is locking. It just means that your hair is bound. And so even though it may look like it is locked, it is not actually locked. By the time you go ahead and wash out all that gel from your hair, apart from the fact that you stand a chance of eventually having build up, by the time you go ahead and wash all that gel from your hair, you're going to see that nothing has locked. Nothing has locked, because the gel has prevented your hair from going through the natural process of locking, and so nothing has locked. And that's why you see that you have a lot of hair at your roots that is not locked. Now, another reason why your hair may not be locking as quickly as it should at the roots is if you are not wetting or washing your locks as often as you need to. Remember what I said earlier. Shrinkage encourages the locking process. Coiling of your hair strands encourages the locking process. And water is one of the things that will help your hair to shrink, help your hair to coil up, and help your hair to lock. So if you're someone that you're not washing your locks often, you're not wetting your locks often, and I find that so many people who do these things that I've been talking about, you know, who always want to maintain their retwist and put a truckload of gel in their hair whenever they are retwist and wear lock styles for a long time, many of them stay away from wetting or washing their locks because they want to maintain their retwists. And so what they are doing is they are slowing down the locking process, because they're not allowing their hair strands to shrink or coil up at the roots, and that is eventually stopping their hair from locking. I'm not saying all these things, like all these videos I make, I am not making them to say, oh, I have all the answers, like it's my way or the highway or whatever. I make all these videos to actually, and that's why my videos are so long, because I always want to explain. If I say something, I always want to explain what I'm saying, why I'm saying what I'm saying, and all that, just so that, not necessarily because I want you guys to, you know, follow what I say and just believe that everything I say is truth, but for you to just sit down, listen to what I'm saying, and think about it. Think about it for yourself. Think about what you have been doing. Ask yourself questions. I feel like one of the problems we have as a community generally, not just the law community, but as a community worldwide, is that many of us do not ask questions. We just hear that, okay, that's how it is done, that's how we've been doing it, and nobody bothers to ask questions. And I feel like if you can just sit down and ask ourselves questions, I'm like, yes, this is how this thing has been done for a certain period of time. Why hasn't it been done this way? What are the benefits? You know, why is it done this way? Basically, if you can all sit down and ask ourselves why. I feel like many mistakes that we make, even especially in the law community, many mistakes that we make will not be made. And all these videos I make is just to help you think for yourself and, you know, make decisions for yourself, not just follow things because everyone is saying it or everyone is doing it, but sit down and think for yourself and think about it, like, does this really make sense? Now, the last thing I'm going to be talking about that is responsible for your hair not like locking as fast as it should at the roots is if you are putting in too much oils on your roots, especially when you retwist. Yet again, I feel like the problem you're having why your hair is not locking as fast as it needs to is all related to how you're retwisting your hair. So the last and final tip is if you're putting too much oils in your locks whenever you retwist, so even if it's not just when you retwist, like generally if you're putting in too much oils or too much products basically in your locks, you're making your locks greasy. And when when your hair is greasy, when your hair strands are greasy, they are not going to connect as easily. And remember what I said earlier, locks form when your strands connect, when your strands tangle. That's how locks form. So anything you're doing that is stopping or slowing down how fast the strands of your hair can connect, all those things will slow down the locking process for your hair. All these things also apply to people who are just starting their locks, right? Who are starting their locks from scratch, and they're not talking about just new growth, they're just talking about hair in general. If you have starter locks and you want your hair to lock faster, all these things also apply, right? You should not be putting, your hair should not be greasy. Your hair should not be greasy. If you're someone that likes to use conditioner in your hair, you should not be putting enough conditioner in your hair that your hair is like slippery. You know, it's okay to, I feel like there are people who believe that you should not even use products at all for your locks, like you should not use oils and lights. But for me, I disagree. I feel like it's actually nice to put products in your hair, you know, as long as those products do not cause build-up, as long as you use the products with caution, as long as they are putting products just enough to help your locks feel nice, improve like the shine of your hair and all that, while not making it greasy. So if you're putting products in your hair in such a way that you put your hand in your hair and you can see transfer of that product from your hair to your hand, that's a sign that you have put too much. That's a sign that your hair is now greasy. Anything you're doing that is making your hair greasy will slow down the locking process. Like, it's as simple as that. Seriously, it's as simple as that. It's going to slow down the locking process. So I encourage you guys to think about all these things I've said. I'm not saying just take my word for it. Think about all these things I've said and try to figure out if it actually makes sense, right? And if you doubt what I say, follow all these things I'm saying for the next 6 months and see if it's going to make any difference in whether your new growth is going to lock any faster, you know. So with that, we've come to the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and I hope you guys found this helpful. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if this is your first time on my channel and you'd like to see more videos from me, then definitely subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys in my next video.